All right, guys, I've been thinking about making this video for a while, just kind of explaining a little bit about why I need a double lung transplant. So in 2017, ironically, it was on April Fool's. It was the night, March 30th, over in April 1st, 2017. Chelsea had went up to bed. I wasn't feeling great that night, so I decided to sleep on the couch because I didn't want to walk up the steps. And I woke up in the middle of the night and I could tell something was wrong. I didn't know what it was. I couldn't breathe. So I was like 32 years old. I was 31. 31 or 32. Someone do the math. But anyway, Chelsea had come down from work and she looked at me and said, "I don't think that I should go to work today. I think I should take you to the hospital." But she didn't know that I had been shallow breathing, trying to stay awake for hours. She drugged me to Temple. She drugged me down to Pottstown Hospital. We're there that the doctors acted very quickly, put a chest tube in, and likely saved my life. And off to Temple I went. It took 4 biopsies and a year and a half for them to diagnose the sarcoid. The aspergillus, they were able to find that, so that takes a while to show up on a culture. They started giving me antifungals when I was in ICU at Temple at this time, and that kind of helped clear up the aspergillus for now, but the damage was done. So what happened was what they think happened, they theorize happened, is that that sarcoidosis over years caused scarring in my lungs, and then acid reflux carried a spore of aspergillus down into my lungs. It grew into an abscess and ruptured, destroying my lungs and making me septic at the time. So that happened. And when I went into the hospital, I was so determined to beat whatever I was going through. Didn't even know I was sarcoid at the time because, like I said, it took a year and a half for them to diagnose it. Yes, they put me on 18 months, I think it was, or 15 months of voriconazole. The aspergillus kind of stayed quiet after that. 2018 was then. It took 3 months to get back to work after that to recover. But I made a recovery as far as I could go back to work full time, and got married in 2018 to my wife in June of 2018. First year of marriage was wild. We went out, we partied, we had fights. We had a lot of love, still have a lot of love. 2018 was a very good year for us, and it wasn't until 2019, and I guess because of the disease, I don't know what it was, maybe the prednisone, but because of all that, it wasn't until 2019 until I really started losing strength, and I guess not having as much oxygen. I don't know. Also, the prednisone I was on. Plus, I was gaining weight. Temple had me on 80 milligrams of prednisone at one point. I don't know. The prednisone caught up to me in 2019. I had my worst year ever mentally. I missed 8 or 9 months of work. Things between my wife and I. It's hard for a man to send his wife off to work every day and wait for her to get home. There's really, you don't feel any purpose there or anything. But then, there was an employee that I had. Well, he was an employee at my job at Puma that he kept bugging me to go to Journey Church. So, and my wife, she had someone at her job bugging her to go to Journey Church. And in October of 2019, after Temple told me earlier in the year that I wouldn't go back, they wouldn't let me go back to work. October 2019, we started going to Journey Church, and also I think in July is when I switched to Penn that year, 2019. But October 2019 is when we started going to Journey Church. So I was able to switch over to Penn, start going to church with my wife, and right before the COVID pandemic, which as you know, really affects people with lung problems. We'll get to that. But I do think that I want to just take a minute and say like how important this church piece has been to us. Not just the church, like, but being able to find hope in something. You know what I mean? Like right now, I'm trying to start a foundation, and we'll get to all that to benefit Penn Medicine, and that's because, man, I've really been listening to what they've been teaching at Journey Church, and I need to build something that I have purpose in, right? That's what I'm worried about. Like, they just gave me, so they just told me, I just got a recent CT scan that said that there's now 2 new fungal balls, which I don't think I've had any since 2017. And also, so like, and then they pushed my oxygen up, and now the amount of oxygen that I need can't be provided by the bag that I walk around. So like when I'm on my feet and carrying that bag's pretty heavy. But anyway, so yeah, 2019 we started going to church and everything. And you know what? That first week we went, it was about kids and parents, and it really had there was nothing I found in that specific message, but that day was the first day that me and my wife hadn't argued in months. And I told myself that day, I said, if I can go to church every Sunday, and it would mean that every Sunday I don't argue with her and we'll have a good day, it was worth it to me. So I kept going. And Steve, the pastor there, he's right around my age, and I think that definitely benefited me because, you know, we grew up through a lot of the same things, so I can really relate to him. So anyway, I switched to Journey. Mentally, things started falling back into place. And then Penn got me back to work right before the COVID pandemic hit. So if you remember, COVID started like really coming around, like you started hearing stuff about it like December of 2019. And then, you know, it was February, my company Puma had a meeting up in Boston. And I didn't go, you know what I mean? And I'm glad that I didn't go because a bunch of people up there got sick because, like, that was, like, when it was first coming in the United States. So I'm glad I didn't go to that Boston trip. And there was people that got sick on that trip, you know? So then, yeah, I got back to work, like, right in February, full-time. And then March 17th or 18th, 2020, retail was shut down. So then I was sitting at home. My wife's working from home. I'm just kind of laid off, waiting around, and it was so weird, you know. The media, you know, they kept saying, oh, you know, 300,000 people dead. And I'm like, man, this is so many people. And my wife was like, and I was like, man, there's got to be bodies just stacked everywhere, right? My wife was like, would you just go for a drive? So I went for a drive, and it was such a beautiful day. And I didn't see any bodies anywhere. And I know that I don't live in a city, so I should point that out. But I don't know. My fear was definitely amplified by the media at the time because, you know, I have a terminal illness dealing with the lungs. So June comes around, 2020, and I got a message from Brandon Conrad, who one of my bosses at Puma. Says, are you going to be there for the reopening or should I fly anybody in? And I understand his concern. Like, am I going to come out during COVID? And I said, no, I'm going to be there. And we had a really good first week, man. That June, it was June 18th or June 16th, I think we opened. And, man, we were on fire because there was a lot of stores still closed. We had people coming down from from New York to shop, you know. And then I didn't finally get COVID until November that year. And it was crazy because I went to the hospital to get tested. I got tested, and I left the hospital, and they called me. And as I was driving home, and they said, "Do you want to come back and sit in the hospital? You're positive for COVID." I started on tearing up, and my wife said, "I don't even have a headache yet. What are you crying for?" "No, we'll go if you have a fever, okay?" So I went home, and I lucked out. COVID didn't do too much to me. Yeah, I was back at work. 2022 was a pretty crazy year. 2022 and 2023. So at one of those can't even figure out which year. I think it was 2022. I got diverticulitis and had bowel resection surgery. That was crazy. Okay. Um, like, people are like, man, you worried about this lung transplant recovery? I'm like, nah. I had two buttholes at one time. One was next to my belly button. I got through that. I feel like I can get through all this, you know? So yeah, where it sits is, I then met with after I got the diverticulitis thing figured out, I ended up blowing up to 340 pounds because of steroids and just laziness. I was like depressed. But then my wife, she said like, hey, let's start going to these comedy shows. And we absolutely fell in love with comedy. And it's because of comedy, I was able to get out of the depression. And I really think that me laughing all the time at these comedians is really helping my lung strength, maybe. You know what I mean? I'm trying to go to like 2 shows a week now. I'm really liking all these littler shows. So me and my wife really fell in love with the comedy community. And that's why I wanted to come on here and tell my transplant story. I had to lose 340 pounds. My mother-in-law actually picked me up from Penn. I had RSV in late, it was December 2023, and I was 340 pounds, and they said I had to get down to 230 pounds to even be considered for the transplant. And it's really hard to exercise when you can't breathe, so I had to do it all diet. So my mother-in-law talked my ear off that whole ride home. And my wife had did about Weight Watchers, and my wife had did Weight Watchers before. So I said, you know what? I like church. I'll go and see how it is. So I went, and come to find out now I know how to manage my diet. Like, even if I go up 10 pounds, I'm like, cool, because I can just get it back off, because now me and my wife got a system down. So pretty confident that the weight's not going to be a problem for this transplant. And I hope to get down to about 205 after it. You know what I mean? About 225 right now. Yeah, so when they finally told me I was ready for the transplant evaluation, they said, all right. And actually, oddly enough, they told me on the anniversary of our baptism, like, hey, you lost enough weight. We're now going to transfer you to the transplant team for your care. So that was like a goal that was accomplished. So that was on September 6th of that year. And so the evaluation was going to start in October. I get a lot of anxiety around doctor's appointments. I've gotten a lot of bad news. So when I go into these doctor's appointments, I kind of zone out. I'm like, it's like, what possibly else could be told, right? So anyway, where was I going with that? Well, anyway, oh yeah, so I was gonna have a lot of appointments for the transplant evaluation that was in October, and I saw that Jay Yoder and Steve Rinaldi were holding comedy classes. So I said, oh, cool, man, let me take these comedy classes. I'll tell my wife that I'm at pulmonary rehab. I'll take these classes, then we'll go to the graduation show, and they'll call me up from the office just to surprise her, to kind of like bring her joy up too. Because one thing that I've done, that I noticed that I've done in the past is, like, I gotta remember that it's not just me going through it; it's me and my wife. And she's been the best wife, man. Just seeing me through all of this, always encouraging me. I have a bunch of stupid ideas, and she'll encourage me to keep trying and trying. And you know what? So when I'm there, and I thought I wanted to be a comedian, I went up there, I went on stage, did it for her. I got some laughs, and then afterwards, so then it took until February 28th for the transplant team to officially get all the testing done and get me put on the list. I was activated. So they actually called me on my dad's birthday. His birthday's February 25th. They called me on February 25th, and that was the day they told me I would be added to the wait list. I wasn't officially added to the wait list until the 28th because of some So just insurance stuff. But the date that they called me was February 25th. And the reason I bring that up is because it's my late father's birthday, and he wasn't really there for me much. But when before a couple weeks before he died, he showed up at my work, and I hadn't seen him in years. And he asked me if we could have dinner together, and I said to him, you know, you haven't done much for me my whole life. Like, why start now? You know what I mean? I didn't really know he was checking out. But when they told me on 225 that I was being added to the wait list for double lung transplant, man, I bawled my eyes out because, like, forgave him instantly, and that's just the power of God, man. Like, I wish I would have had that dinner, but he's looking out for me now. So anyway, so things were going well. I got added to the transplant list, and all my anxiety went away because I was so worried about getting on the list because I was getting all those tests with bad news. They had to check out my heart. I'm overweight, like, need a new lung, you're dying, right? All this stuff, right? So, I knew I needed a distraction because I was having a lot of issues again. And I decided to throw a comedy show fundraiser. And on July 11th, with the help of Jay Yoder and all the other great comedians that were on my, everyone that helped out, the Dezudis who came, and they were like, my wife was doing all kind of crazy. There was so much stuff done behind the scenes that it made it so much easier for me to just worry about, like, trying to be up there with the comedians and stuff. So I just want to say thank you to everybody that's helped out, everybody that came, everybody that's reposted, everybody that's reached out. Just want to give you a little bit about my story. And, so they just this week, they did another CT scan, and, they found some inflammation in the middle of my lung and 2 more fungal balls. I'm not sure exactly what that means. I see the transplant team next week on August 7th to see if they raise my lung allocation score. But that's a little bit about my story. I'm starting the Die Laughing Foundation. So our first show was 7/11. The next one's 9/12 at the Rivet. And then I'm looking to have shows in December and then again in February. I'm going to try to do this quarterly. We're starting a nonprofit to benefit Penn Medicine. This is going to be my project that I work on during recovery. It makes it a lot easier. Like right now, I can't walk into work because I can't stand on my feet for too long, or I start feeling really very fatigued. But I can sit at a computer and I can make phone calls and get this nonprofit set up so that I can look for investors and hopefully get bigger comedians on board, and we can donate some significant money to the Penn Medicine lung transplant program. He's trying to save my life. Also, with that being said, hope to see you guys at the show on 9/12. If not, things are getting set up that there's going to be plenty more shows. And, I'm excited to see where this goes. And, it's the first thing that, it's the first thing in a while that me and my wife decided, we both love and we want to build together. And that's another reason I think it's going to be sustainable, is because we're going to be building this thing together. It's not just me working on a project, it feels like it just feels good. And, any comedians you want to be on my future shows, let me come check you out. Hit my DMs. I'll come out and check your shows out. I'm looking to see as many shows as I can, hold as many as I can, laugh as much as I can. Because remember, you only live once. Die laughing.